Hi, my name is Mary Pulling, and I'm going to be doing my first presentation video. Okay, John, I just want to start out by saying I really appreciate the opportunity of getting together with you today. And you know, I don't even know if we have anything that can help you, but I'm going to go through some of the areas that we work in, such as increasing cash flow, reducing debt, and decreasing taxes. We also specialize in life insurance and annuity products that can potentially shave years off of somebody's retirement date. And if there's anything of interest to you, John, let me know and we can get back together on another date and go over some of the details. But for right now, I just want you to know there's nothing to buy, so just sit back and relax, okay? Now, let me tell you a little bit about Federal Financial Group. We are a national company, and we represent several financial institutions with assets in the billions of dollars. And many of these institutions have been in business over 100 years. So what we do is we like to teach people about money, how it works, and how to make it work better for them. Specifically, we have one goal in mind, and that is to help people become financially independent. What does that mean? Well, the money that you have put aside earning interest, that interest will eventually be able to replace your current income that you're getting either now from a business or a salary. And once that happens, you're able to retire. You don't have to work anymore. That's financial independence. Now, John, wouldn't you like to know how to get there the soonest? Well, that's where I'm headed with this. So I'm going to go over some of the challenges and issues that face us today, and then I'll talk about some of the solutions. Now, incomes are rising, of course. Yes, they are. But the problem is the cost of living is going up and up and up. And for most Americans, their income isn't able to keep up with the cost of housing or a lot of other things. So what happens is people tend to get into debt, lack of security steps in, and then poor saving habits ensue. And this is a big problem. So let me ask you this question, John. Out of 100 people retiring at age 65 today, how many out of that 100 do you think are able to retire financially independent? 20? Well, that's a good guess. I wish it was 20, but unfortunately, it's 4. 4 out of 100 people are only able to retire financially independent. So what are the other 96 doing? Well, they're relying on family, or they're relying on charity, or the majority of them, they're still working. And you've seen all the seniors working over there at Walmart, right? And and tell you this other story. The other day I was in Sears, and I was getting ready to check out. And this woman behind the counter was getting ready to help me pay for my items. Now, John, this woman was old. I mean, I'm not kidding. She had to have been in her mid-70s. She was really old. And, you know, I started to check out, and she did something, she made a mistake on the cash register. I don't know what happened. But anyway, so the manager comes over, and he probably maybe 30 years old. He starts yelling at her. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is awful. And, you know, I felt terrible. And so she looks up at me and she had tears in her eyes. And I felt awful. I mean, she didn't want to be there. She didn't want to still have to be working. But she was out of money. She had to. Now, I know that woman did not think at 70-some years old she'd be working at Sears taking guff from this 30-year-old manager. You know, and I see stuff like this happening all the time, and it's getting worse because people are living longer. So, you know, it's a problem. It's a big, big problem out there. Now, let's talk about some of the solutions. We have 7 steps that help people reach their goals and dreams and try to become potentially financially independent. let me go over those with you real quickly, John. You know, I'm going to just rip through them. And if you have any questions, you can certainly ask me. And then if there's any priorities that definitely fit some of your needs, we can come back to them at another time and find a strategy to go after those problems for you, okay? All right, so let's look at step one. Step one is inspect what you expect. Now, you can't win the money game, John, if you don't know where your money's going, right? So we have an online tool. It's really awesome. It can help you track your income and your expenditures and your income coming in every month, and then, of course, the expenditures and your bills and whatnot going out. And it helps you keep track of that. And possibly it could even free up some cash flow that you may not even know you had. And it could be applied to either paying down debt or applying it to your future dreams and goals. So that's step one. And then step two is increasing cash flow. Now, John, how would you define cash flow? Excellent. Well, that's an excellent way to describe it. It could also be defined like this. All the money that you have coming in every month, your earnings, minus your bills and expenditures going out every month. What's left over at the end of the month, that's your cash flow, right? So we work with some companies that help improve your cash flow by reducing the cost of services on your debts. Now, let me ask you this question. At the end of the year, John, do you get a tax refund or do you owe money? You get money back? Great. Awesome. That's interesting because, you know, I was with a client the other day and he told me the same thing. He gets anywhere from $2,500 to $3,000 back at the end of each year. So what that's telling me is that people are saying, okay, the government can hold on to my money for over a year, and they're earning interest on my money, and then when they get ready to pay it back to me, they pay it back to me at 0% interest. Now, John, that doesn't make sense, does it? Absolutely not. So what we like to do is show people where they could possibly take that money that's being earned and put it back into their own budget where they're earning interest on it instead of the government. Pretty cool, huh? All right, now let's move on to step three, which is debt elimination. And I'm going to show you a little scenario here in my book. This is a typical, this is just a hypothetical structure of a typical family and their debt. Let's look at this scenario here, John. All right, so this family's got a mortgage of $144,000, auto loan for $39,000, credit card for $10,000, and a store card at $1,200. So on their current plan, paying off all these debts, they could be debt-free in 26.8 years. Now, using our plan, the debt eliminator, look at this, John, it's really awesome. They could be totally debt-free in 13.1 years, including their mortgage. Same monthly payment and no refinancing involved there. Pretty cool, huh? So is that an area of interest that you would need some work in, John? No, you're pretty good there. You don't owe a bunch of credit cards and stuff. Okay, cool, awesome. I commend you on that. Okay, so let's move on to step four. And step four is, this is a really important one too. It's building an emergency fund. And what I found, John, do you have an emergency fund? No? Okay, well, most of my clients tell me that they don't have one. Most people don't. And so what happens is, emergency comes up, let's say, example, you need $1,800 for a new transmission for your car. Now, out comes the Visa card or the MasterCard, and you pay for that transmission. Now, in 3 to 4 years, that $1,800 transmission just now costs you $3,000, $4,000. That's not good. That's really not a good scenario. So it's important to have an adequate emergency fund. And what that means, you have to have 4 things in place to have a strong emergency fund. And that is, it's got to be safe. It's got to be getting a better interest rate than your checking account. John, have you ever tried to save money in your checking account? What happens? It gets spent. Absolutely. So it's got to be out of sight, out of mind. And it's got to be completely liquid, meaning you can get to it in case of an emergency. And then, of course, it's, as I said, it's got to be separate from your checking account, and it's got to be systematically funded, meaning, let's say you draft $50 out of your checking account automatically every month to go into this separate, say, money market account. And that way it's out of sight, out of mind, and it's building up, and it's building it at a better interest rate. And you'll have a sound emergency fund going there for you. And by having an emergency fund, it helps keep your credit card balances at zero. And it also helps people from dipping into their retirement funds, which they get hit with huge early withdrawal penalties, like 10%. So that's a good one to have in place. All right, so we're moving on to step 5, which is step 5 is protecting against loss of income and ensuring your family's assets. Now, let me ask you this, John. Have you ever seen this scenario? There's a mom, a dad, 3 kids. Something happens to dad. Pretty devastating, right? Absolutely. But what's even more devastating now, there's the loss of his income. So now what happens to his family? Who pays the mortgage? Who keeps the lights on? Who puts the food on the table? It's very devastating. So here at Federal Financial Group, we like to do things a little bit differently. We look at people's assets, and we come back with options to show people the correct amount of life insurance to buy. So that's step 5. Now, moving on to step 6, John, and this is the big one. This is the one that can change the quality of your life. Everybody loves step 6. And in order for you to win the financial battle, John, there's 2 things that you have to win at, 2 things that you have to incorporate into your strategy. Now, I can be strong with you. If you don't incorporate these 2 things, chances of you being financially independent, it may never happen. And if it does, it's way out there somewhere. So let me tell you what these 2 battles are. The first one is inflation, and the second one is the tax battle. Because you know what? It's not about how much you make. It's how much you keep. And if you're not careful, taxes can really hurt you. So I'm going to go through some examples here for you, John. Let me show you. Where's my pen? Pen. Oh, okay, pen. All right. So let's talk about inflation. Have you heard of the rule of 72, John? No? All right, that's okay. It's really interesting, though. Let me show you a little bit how this works. All right, let's say you have an account that's earning 4%. So you take 4% and you divide it into 72. That gives you 18, right? 18 represents how many years it will take for your money to double. Okay, so let me show you an example, give you an example here. Let's say you have $100 in an account that's earning 4%, and you're leaving it in there and it's growing. So in 18 years, your money's doubled now to $200. John, what happens in another 18 years? Absolutely, excellent. It doubles again. It's now at absolutely $400. But here's the problem. 36 years from now, will this $400 buy what the $100? Will this $400 buy now what the $100 back then would have? Probably not. And that's inflation. So, John, if people are saving, where are they saving? Banks, credit unions, fixed accounts. Right, exactly. But even those accounts probably not even getting 4%. And so you can see what's happening. Money is growing, but inflation's growing much, much faster. And people are losing purchasing power, and they may never be able to retire. It's a big, big problem. So the solution is to help people get a better rate of return, right? All right, so let's say a person could have gotten 6 to 12%. Let me show you this scenario, Jen. Okay, so let's say you're 29 years old and you have $10,000 earning at a rate of 4%. So 4, as we said, into 72 is 18. So in 18 years, your money now is doubled to 20,000, right? What, in another 18 years? Absolutely, it doubles again. Now you're $40,000. Now you're 65 years old. The kids are all grown up. The house is paid for. You're ready to retire. But here's the problem. John, you got $40,000 to your name. How long do you think that's going to last? The way you spend? Not very long. I'm just kidding, but seriously, even if you're really frugal, it might last a year, maybe a little longer, and you're out of money. Now you're a greeter at Walmart. But here's the problem. You've run out of time. And who wants to work past age 65? The only thing we could have done here, John, is change the interest rate. And here's the million-dollar question. If we could have gotten 6 to 12% instead of 4, would we now have greater financial independence? Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so let's move on here. And as I said, let's say we could get somewhere to 6 to 12%. So at 6%, your money would double every 12 years. At 8%, it would double every 9 years. And at 12%, it would double every 6 years. So in 36 years, at age 65, look at this, John. You've now got $640,000. Isn't that amazing? God, it's awesome. That is so awesome. The only difference between this guy and this guy is the interest rate. Not more money, not more time. The only difference was the interest rate. But it cost this guy $600,000. Pretty amazing, huh? Absolutely. Now, John, don't you think that's a pretty important principle for you to learn? It could change the quality of your life. And you know, it's not about having $10,000. It's about putting away a little bit every month at a decent interest rate. And if you start saving for you, there may come a time where instead of you're out earning your money, your money's out earning you. Pretty awesome, huh? So the million-dollar question is, where can I get a decent interest rate where the principal is protected and I'm guaranteed not to lose money? Well, I'm going to show you some strategies here, John. All right, so I'm going to go over, there's 3 different strategies, and I'm going to go give you some examples of each one. And then when I'm done, you can let me know which one makes the most sense to you, so I know what's suitable for you when we get back together, okay? Fair enough? All right, so let me show you this. All right, so the first strategy is called the fixed. And the rate of return is guaranteed, but it's about 1 to 3%. That's a really low rate. And that's a problem because you're not outpacing inflation. Okay, so the second scenario strategy, is the market, mutual funds and stocks. Now that's the second approach. And here you have greater potential for return, but you also have a greater risk of losing your money. And people have. It's pretty dicey out there right now. So the third scenario, or third strategy is the index strategy. And this is kind of a combination of the two. Let me show you how this works, John. All right, so you're in the index strategy, your principal is protected, and the interest you earn is protected, and you're guaranteed not to lose money. And all the interest earned is linked with the S&P 500 stock index, where for the past 25 years, it's averaged about 10% every year. So, John, of these three, which one makes the most sense to you? Fixed, market, and the index. Absolutely, I know. And that's a great one. And most people pick the index strategy. It's very popular. Now let's talk a little bit about that. You've heard of the S&P 500, right? Excellent. Well, the S&P 500 stock index is 500 of the most widely held companies in the United States, and they represent over 100 different industries such as healthcare, utilities, technology, things like that. In fact, the S&P 500 represents about 70% of the total domestic equity market capitalization. That's about 70% of the American economy. But get this, the S&P 500 has averaged about 10% for the past 25 years. Now, if you had invested in the S&P 500 25 years ago at 10%, you'd be pretty happy, right? Absolutely. Now, when we get back together, if we decide the index strategy is suitable for you, I'll go over the products, the cost of them, the caps, the floors, and the terms and conditions, all right? But for now, let me go over how interest crediting works. All right, so all the interest earned is linked to the S&P 500 up to a cap of, say, 10%, but without any of the downside risk of putting your money directly into the stock market. So I'm going to show you a couple scenarios here again, John. There. Okay, so as you can see, your money is protected from any market loss, and at the same time you can participate in the growth of the S&P up to the cap that I said, for an example, of 10%, with the protection from any downside market loss. That's pretty important, don't you think? Absolutely. Now, I'm going to show you another example here. All right, let's say a few years back you contributed $10,000 into an index strategy. And let's say that S&P 500 did 10% the first year. So now you're up to $11,000, right? Okay, and the S&P did another 10% the second year. Now you're up to $12,100, right? You following me? Excellent. Okay, now the S&P 500 in the third year, unfortunately, tanks. It drops 20%. Is that possible? Absolutely. And in fact, it's happened. But look at this, John. Instead of your account dropping down to $9,600, which is obviously less than what you started with in year 3, it remains at $12,100 because you're in the index strategy. So you don't lose. So you can see why the index strategy is quickly becoming one of the most popular and one of the best ways to win the rate of return and the inflation battle. And it gives you a potential to get higher growth and protect you from any downside market loss. But John, you can't just win the rate of return battle and forget about the tax battle. All right, so I'm going to show you another scenario here, John. All right, so let's say 30 years ago, there was this young man, he was 30 years old, and he wanted to have $1 million by the time he was 60 years old. Now, he didn't know about any of this stuff. So he goes into the bank and says, Mr. Banker, what do I need in order for me to have $1 million when I'm 60? The banker says, okay, let me figure this out. Now remember, back then, CDs were earning about 5%. Today, they're earning anywhere from 1 to 3%, but back then they were earning about 5%. Okay, so the banker sits down and figures this all out. And he comes back and tells the young man, okay, so this is what you'll have to put away every month for the next 30 years at 5%, so you'll have your $1 million when you're 60. Look at this number, John. $1,639. Oh my God. I know. It's huge. It's a huge amount of money. So he got totally discouraged. He left the bank, and he never saved a dime. Guess where he's at now? He's a greeter at Walmart. You've seen him, right? Now, let me show you another scenario. What if we could have taught him how to win the rate of return battle, and the tax battle? Look at how this number drops. It's unbelievable. So instead of at 5%, he's now earning at 10%. That number drops down to $900 a month. I know, it's still a lot of money, and most people still couldn't put away $900 a month. But look, it's $700 different than this number, right? That's significant. And John, you know, because we can change the interest rate here, it can make a huge difference. Now, let me show you again another scenario. What if we could help him put away money put money away where it grows, but it can't be taxed? So with tax deferral, what does he have to put away now? Look at this, John. About $400 a month. Now, John, do you know people that could do that? Absolutely. You could probably do that. You're blowing that now, right? So you see, it's not about putting away a ton of money. It's about putting away what you can every month at a decent interest rate, reducing taxes, and avoiding loss of principal. In fact, in step 6, when we're all done, a person will know how and when they can be totally financially independent. And if we do it right, we could shave years off of their retirement date. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And John, let me ask you this. If you were financially independent right now, you had enough money put away in a nest egg that you didn't have to work anymore, what would you be doing? What would you and your wife be doing? What are some of your goals and dreams? Alaskan cruise? Awesome. I hear that's spectacular. Now think about it. If you were totally financially independent, you'd have options, right? And that's the point. You could do what you want, when you want. In fact, the other day I was with a client on our second appointment, and he was with his wife, and she was so excited because, you know, she said, I could knock on every single one of my neighbors' doors and ask them the question, do you know when you could be financially independent? And you know what? None of them could answer that question. But you know what? I can. And at that time, her and her husband became one because they knew when their dreams were going to happen. Isn't that exciting? John, that's step 6. Awesome. Now, as I said, we do 7 steps, so I don't want to forget step 7, and that's estate planning. And putting a trust in place to avoid probate and protect your assets is an important factor in planning a financial strategy. So are you currently working with an attorney, John, that's doing your estate issues? Yes? Fantastic. Great. Okay, so that's our 7 steps. Pretty awesome, huh? Now, John, let me ask you, if you could only pick from these 7 steps, if you could only pick 2, which one would you pick? Which two would you pick? Increasing cash flow, decreasing debt, establishing a good emergency fund, life insurance protection, building long-term financial independence, which is pretty important, obviously, or estate planning. So out of those 7, John, if you could, your biggest priorities, which 2 would you pick? 4 and 6? Awesome. These are great choices. So the next step that we need to do is something we call a financial need analysis. So I can make sure the products that I offer to you are suitable for you. And I'm going to ask you a few questions to help me know what your goals and dreams are and what your current needs are. Then I'll take this information back to my office. We have a really sophisticated software program, and I'll put all this information into that program, and it will help me develop a plan of attack specific for your needs and help you become one thing: financially independent the soonest. Won't that be awesome? It's going to be fun, John. This is going to be really fun. So, let me tell you a little bit of what this is going to cost before we get into the financial need analysis thing here. Okay, so when I come back, what I am going to expect is a plate of hot, warm, freshly baked chocolate chip cookies that you baked for me and a tall glass of milk. I know, I'm just kidding, but you were looking really serious there, so I had to throw that out. But no, let me tell you really how we get paid so you know. Now, the companies that you may choose to link up with will pay me a finder's fee or a commission. So there will be no bill for my services sent to you. So it's a win-win scenario. Now, however, John, the information that I put into this software program is and the information that I come back with you to give to you is only going to be as accurate as the information that I put in, right? So work with me here. We're talking about your financial future. And if we do this right, we can potentially shave years off of your retirement date. So I need yes or no answers to some of these questions. It can't be maybes, okay, John? So this will help me know, to put together a good strategy for you. So let me ask you a couple questions, John. In the next 2 or 3 years, do you plan on making any major purchases? No? Okay, awesome. All right, so we just finished the financial need analysis, and I just want to say thank you, John, for helping me with that. Now, it's going to be awesome when we get back together in a day or two. John, you have $400 here to work with. That's huge. And when we get back together, you're going to have a crystal clear picture of how and when you can be totally financially independent and fulfilling your dreams and goals. And you're going to love this. But you're going to need to listen. And I'm going to spend some time on this because I know you're serious. I'm going to be serious. All right? This is going to be huge. And John, this is going to change the quality of your life. And you're going to owe me big time. Anyway, so it's important that we build upon what we just talked about today. So we need to set up a time, in the next 24 to 48 hours. If we go farther than that, say into next week, I'll have to recap all this information again. So we need to get back together as soon as we can, all right? So I'm looking at my schedule here, John, and this is going to change your life. So just so you know, I'm pretty booked up here in the next several weeks, but I can move things around a little bit. So what's your day look like tomorrow? I could, let me look here. I have a 10 a.m. or I could possibly have a 3 p.m. open. Which would work better for you? 3 p.m.? Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to mark that in my schedule right now, John, and I'd appreciate it if you could put it on your schedule or on your calendar or a note on your bathroom wall, you know, wherever you put your important appointments. So now, John, before I leave, I have 2 more questions I just want to ask you. If when I come back and I'm able to show you a strategy that you're perfectly comfortable with and it meets your needs in every way, is there any reason we couldn't do business together? Awesome. Fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. And secondly, after we do business together, is there any reason you wouldn't give me 3 or 4 people that you know, their names and phone numbers, so I can give them the benefit of my services and then the same way help them that I'm going to help you? That would work for you? Fantastic. Okay, special. That's fantastic. So, John, we'll get together tomorrow at 3 o'clock, all right? And thank you again for your time. I really appreciate getting together with you. Okay, so that's Mary Pulling's presentation 1. Now, I was told I also have to do my preset appointment, confirming a preset appointment. Okay, so I'm going to put this on my video as well. All right, and I'm getting a little hoarse here, so just bear with me. We're almost through. All right, Mr. Johnson, my name is Mary Pulling, and I'm with Federal Financial Group. How are you today? Fantastic. I understand you had a chat with Jennifer in our marketing department a couple days ago, and you set an appointment to get together and talk a little bit about some financial strategies. And hey, I'm that lucky person that gets to come out and meet with you and bring in your scratch card. In fact, if you win the Ford Explorer, you're going to owe me big. And while I got you on the phone, Mr. Johnson, let me just give you the 5-second nutshell of exactly what we'll be doing when, so you're comfortable with me coming out to your place. Okay, first of all, when we get together, you can't buy anything on the first visit. So put away your wallet, put away your checkbook. And I know that really disappoints you. But when we get together, this will be a short visit. And I can only spend about 20-25 minutes with you. And at that point, if there's a need on your part, then we'll get back together some other time and go over some specifics. We'll be talking about powerful tools to improve your cash flow, help reduce taxes, which is huge for people. Also, how annuity and life insurance can possibly shave years off of your retirement date. In fact, our goal is to help ensure that you have a great quality of life a lot sooner than what you thought possible. And when we get together, it will absolutely amaze you. So some of the things I'll be able to share with you and show you. And oh, by the way, I'll be bringing out your scratch card. You're guaranteed to win a Florida and Bermuda cruise package or one of the following: a Ford Explorer, $2,500 in cash, or a TV. And I'll go over all that when I get there. This is just courtesy of us getting together, so that will be fun. And if you win the Ford Explorer, you're going to owe me big. No, let me verify your address, Mr. Johnson. And I got 2929 Mockingbird Lane. Is that correct? Great. And I've got it set for 3 p.m. Will that still work for you? Fantastic. Look, we'll be planning on seeing you then. And hey, this will be fun. This will amaze you. As far as some of the things you'll learn and some of the things we can do. It'll be short and sweet, but a lot of fun, Mr. Johnson. And I look forward to chatting and meeting you. Okay, so we'll see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Okay, bye now.